back in January 1995. We got together, there were about 10 of us at the meeting, and we were just talking about having some sort of group as a support group and advocacy group for Jewish GLBTI people.
Treibt rum mich herum, über Länder, Stadt, Stickerei sich von meinem und ich
I did know a number of people in my circles who were Jewish and gay. I also feel I knew a lot of people who were Jewish and gay but not comfortable with their gay identity at all and actually hadn't come out.
At the age of 26, I was needing to talk to somebody about my sexuality. I'd been struggling with my sexuality for the best part of 16 years and I'd not told a single person and I didn't know what to do. One day in the Jewish news I saw an advert that said, Aleph for gay men, call this number. So I called the number and I left a message, and then I got a call from somebody who I didn't know. I went to this person's house one evening and I sat down in their lounge room and I said, look, I'm gay. And that was the hardest sentence of my life. It was absolutely, I had never said anything more difficult in my life. And once I'd said that, it was like the whole weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders at the age of 26. And that was probably the biggest thing that has ever happened in my life.
There was a lot of things happening in my life when I joined Aleph. This was pre my coming out, and I was planning the transition. And one of the things that I felt was important was that I keep a connection, as many connections as I can, to the Jewish community. And I knew that joining Aleph would give me lots of support and friendship. And by contacting Aleph, this was part of the way in which I could be more at ease with my decision to come out. It was a very difficult time, and I knew that there were going to be lots of changes in my world, not just with myself.
I was so grateful that I was able to contact somebody who I was familiar with in a cultural sense. It is probably the one place in the Jewish community in Melbourne that anybody can go to with any concern about their sexuality or their gender identity.
There was a need for a group like Aleph back in the mid-90s because really gay men had been fairly invisible or very invisible.
The Jewish community is very much in the mind of, we don't want to talk about you.
Schön wie die Levane, lichtig wie die Sterne, wenn Himmel am Matane, bist du mir zugeschickt. Mein Glück hab ich gewonnen, wenn ich hab dich gefunden. Scheint's wie tausend Sonnen, hast mein Herz beglückt.
There were a lot of Jewish gay people who were very proud and prominent about being Jewish, but would never talk about being gay. There was a lot of stigma around it, and it certainly wasn't discussed at Jewish forums like the Jewish Community Council of Victoria.
A few of us had a discussion one day and said, we'd like to get representation on the Jewish Community Council because we feel that Aleph being on the Jewish Community Council would provide a voice for the people who in the Jewish community are on the margin.
So this was a way to actually bring visibility to Jewish gay men, which had been lacking previously, and for that reason alone there was a need for a group like Aleph.
Underlying all of this for me was trying to mitigate the risks for younger people in terms of mental health and suicide. We suspected it might be tricky, we had no idea.
It was, I think the Jewish community were in many respects ready for it, not the ultra-Orthodox rabbis.
You're talking here of fundamentals of life. These are individuals who do not produce families. These are individuals who perform sexually in a way which is aberrant, to say the least, with regard to Judaism. There are certain things which they don't like talking about, which they have done now because it's forced into the open, and that is sort of they want to enter into Jewish schools, into the intersex education. And this is something which will ring the alarm bells with Jewish parents.
Front page news for weeks and weeks, letter columns, threats of the whole community splitting apart. This is what it amounted to, and all we wanted to do was just have a place at the table. We didn't want to cause trouble, we just wanted to be part of the community like every other organisation in the Jewish community was.
The Jewish Community Council has voted against allowing Melbourne's Aleph group into the council.
The objection to our application was that a homosexual or gay organisation is contravening Jewish law. There's nothing whatsoever in our organisation's objectives or ideals to say that we are going to infiltrate or we're going to convert or we're going to subvert or whatever. We're just a very straightforward support group and a social organisation. We don't have a hidden agenda.
It really rocked Aleph, it rocked the community, and in the end we didn't get membership.
A gay Jewish community group has lost its bid to become part of an influential umbrella body.
Our organisation isn't set up for the practice of homosexuality, it's for the support of homosexuals, which is a slightly different issue, very subtle.
And do you think the rabbis, the conservative rabbis who rejected your proposal, do not see that distinction?
Oh, well, they may see it, but they choose to ignore it, I believe.
Wasn't it Emma Goldman who said, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution? Aleph has certainly displayed that. The level of political activism and, may I say, religious activism that has been very significant. Aleph took the Jewish community beyond acceptance to affirmation and celebration.
Now the Jewish Community Council of Victoria calls for respect.
Also, Aleph has shown that you put in years of hard work into your own community. And in the end, the results are there, but somehow they forget to remember who actually did all the hard work for years in order to get to that position. But we all remember.
Aleph in 1999 went to Sydney Mardi Gras, and a group of 7 people from Melbourne joined a group of 7 people in Sydney. We were the Jewish princesses, and we went down Oxford Street, and that was probably one of the most amazing and empowering experiences. That sparked a momentum within the Sydney Jewish community. Dianu started in 2000, the year after. They have had a very dynamic, vibrant, cohesive, queer Jewish presence in Sydney. So that's been one of our successes. And we grew as a group from a gay men's group to gay and bisexual men to, in 2007, LGBTIQ. We became fully inclusive. A group of people in the Pride March from Aleph was the best thing we ever decided to do. It gave the Jewish community a presence, and we attended every single year subsequently.
Aleph has contributed and collaborated with so many diverse faiths and cultures. Having a space to be treated like an individual with respect, to find one's place, Aleph has been very significant.
Aleph exists within the Jewish community as a social and support group. It also exists within the queer community as a Jewish group, and I am so grateful that Aleph was there for me, and I hope that over the last 20 years we've been able to make changes for people's lives in a better way.
And I do think even 20 years later, now that we're in the mid-20 teens, there's still a need for a Jewish gay group as an advocacy group, as a social support group. Your vibe attracts your tribe, so it allows similar-like people to socialise with each other, to show that gay Jews are visible and that they're not alone. You can't be what you can't see.
I hope that in 20 years we either don't need Aleph or it's continuing on in a stronger way.